What's going on, guys? Oh, man. It's good to be back. I think I've been at every one of these, and it only keeps getting better. So you guys are doing awesome. It used to be you walk out, there's a small group like this, sort of like a Joe Biden rally. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. You got 7 young conservatives to show up on their Christmas, we'll say Christmas vacation, right? We can still say that, right? And guess what, guys? It just keeps growing because we're right. Little recap of what's going on in our country. You've seen the insanity. You've seen the disastrous policies. You've seen what's gone on in the decisions we're making on an international front. I mean, we're literally now negotiating with terrorists. Right? And we can all be happy to bring an American home, even if that American hates America. What we can be upset about is that we're giving our enemies arms dealers. When you trade the merchant of death for a WNBA player, that's what we call a bad trade. Now, it may be the only trade that anyone's heard of in the history of the WNBA, but that still doesn't make it a good... Oh, yeah, please, fact check me. Anyone, name the team she plays for, even now. All right? We're there. What do you think? I mean, has anyone asked the question, like, we are literally giving Ukraine, I think we're up to $100 billion. That's what we know about because our own Congress said it was unpatriotic to ask where your tens of billions are going. Remember that one? You're being a Russian apologist. No, I just want to know where my money's going. Right? Here's $100 billion for you, $100 billion for you. It's like Oprah. But with taxpayer dollars. And so we give hundreds of billions of dollars, I'm sure it'll go significantly more, to the Ukraine, also a corrupt regime, just so we're clear, right? I mean, let's not pretend that that's not an equally corrupt regime to Russia, right? We give that, and then we give Russia back their #1 arms dealer. Where do you think this is going to happen, folks? The only people that are thrilled about this trade, other than the billionaire class that's being formed in Ukraine, you know, Zelensky and those, the new oligarch class of the Ukraine, are the American military-industrial complex, who are thrilled at the prospect of being able to sell missiles and death for the upcoming decades. The American public, no longer, on both sides, it's one of the few things we seem to agree on, actually, has no more appetite to be in the endless wars, thank God. Thank you, Donald Trump, by the way. So they got to figure out another way to get rich, right? Big military has been watching Big Pharma get really rich for the last few years, and they're saying, it's our turn again. So you have Brittany Griner. You have the Democrats today pushing for 3-year-old children to be indoctrinated by their purple-haired teachers to go through life-changing, permanent sexual reassignment surgeries. And if parents want to get involved, they're domestic terrorists. If parents want to maybe be a part of that conversation, let's be clear, that kid can't buy a pack of cigarettes for another 15 years. It can't vote, although the Democrats would want them to, because of course they don't know what they're talking about, for another 15 years. But they can decide to mutilate their bodies permanently to satisfy some insane, woke teacher. Okay? We have every conspiracy theorist in America is batting about 1,000. Right? No. And I'll put myself in that class because I've been called a conspiracy theorist for years. I was called a conspiracy theorist before everyone. Because I'd say, that's weird. I think Twitter's manipulating the algorithm. That's nonsense. How do you know that? It was like, well, because yesterday I was getting like 5,000 retweets a post. Now I'm getting 2. I promise you, the content didn't go to hell. The content was good. A little bit rough. But it happened like that every time. Right? Now we see it. Now we see it in the files. Whether it's Charlie, who's done an incredible job growing this group. Then we saw it was me they were trying to cancel as well as part of that. I was like, shocking. I'm so shocked that people who are effective communicators, people who are willing to engage in the insanity that we are up against, of course those are the ones they shut down. You know who they put? The people who can't articulate a point, who look ridiculous, those are the people on the right. Because we all have our lunatics. They'll boost that to make it seem like that's the fight between the one rational leftist and the ludicrous rightist. But they've been doing this forever. Now we see it. But what's perhaps the best is watching the reaction of the insane leftists right now when they're now on at least a seemingly level playing field for the first time in history. Now they don't want free speech anymore because they can't compete on the issues. They never could, right? They haven't been able to, but it's easy to compete and to win when you have $1 trillion institution, big tech, mainstream media, all the social media giants, when they're functioning as your marketing team, when they're the arbiters of truth. It has nothing to do with truth, but when they get to decide what you will and will not see, of course you can win those arguments. Frankly, it's mind-blowing to me that it was ever even close. But now, you see it, right? The same people, this week alone, the same people who cheered for years about some small Twitter account being permanently suspended, about some conservative business having their livelihoods threatened and destroyed for not going along with the sound bites, for people who questioned anything, whether it was the CDC, whether it was big tech, whether it was the mainstream media. Now they get a 12-minute ban and they lose their minds. Well, welcome to our world, folks. We've been dealing with this stuff and still able to thrive because our ideas are right. Okay? They get a little taste of it and they can't handle it because they thought they were so witty. They thought they were so good. They weren't. But they had $1 trillion backing their stupidity. And they believed that was skill. They believed that was ideas. Guess what, folks? It ain't about the ideas. Right? You started seeing that when you see the disastrous results of what's going on right now. Remember, the adults are back in charge, but we're releasing terrorists. We release terrorists, but as part of that negotiation, we let them keep the Marine. No, we're doing a pretty, hey, America's getting known for leaving our guys behind or putting them in a situation where they ain't coming home. Right? Now, so imagine it was Trump. Imagine any one of these scenarios that has proven to be true. Imagine Twitter was doing what they did for a conservative. What would happen? Imagine, investigation. I'd have been in jail like 6 months ago. Right? It's sort of like, imagine Don Jr. was doing the Hunter Biden stuff. Any one of it. No, just pick, like what? There's like 300 Hunter Biden examples. Like, it's a Sunday, so I may not talk about if it was Don Jr. smoking crack with prostitutes. I think it'd be a problem, but I won't talk about that. But if I took $1 billion from China, because China's known for investing $1 billion in crack addicts, right? That's what they do. You think that part usually weeded out in the diligence process, right? That doesn't happen. But do you think what we've discovered, even in the last few weeks, was going on at Twitter? You think that's any different than what's going on at any newsroom in America right now? You think Twitter's any different than ABC News? Do you think it's any different than CNN? I'd argue CNN's probably worse. And if you look at it based on donations, Twitter was like 99.997 to the Democrat Party. It's no different. It's just they're the first ones to get caught. They were exposed. I mean, we're trying to pretend like Twitter's a unique thing. It's no different at Facebook, Instagram, same thing, right? It's no different at MSNBC, CNN. They've all been doing this. They've manipulated the truth, and those who are willing to speak out, they get canceled. They get shut down. And when they do, it's celebrated. Now, when they dox someone in a real-life situation, there's someone who's had, a white powder substance mailed to their home, like, I understand that's not a comfortable position to be in. That's not free speech. But when they endanger someone's son and they're canceled for about 6 minutes, they lose their minds, while they spent the last few years celebrating anyone who questioned the likes of Lord Fauci, who I imagine will be proven to be a total fraud and idiot. Yeah. Hey guys, write it down. I've been saying this for a while now, but now we at least have a chance of maybe seeing the truth. But think about it. I mean, the FBI, I call him Special Agent Pronouns because he had his pronouns in the bio. Because of course he did, right? The agent in charge of disinformation at Twitter has pronouns in his bio. I'm sure we're going to get a fair shot at this clown, right? I mean, you can't, like, if this was The Office, you couldn't write a dumber script. But it's happening in real time in America right now. And that's the problem, folks. We are not losing on the issues. Okay, someone asked me backstage, I was doing an interview, what's the #1 issue we got to be fighting for? I was like, guess what, guys? We got to be out there fighting for election integrity. Well, yes, we have to do that, but you can't do that until you win the battle on their turf, because they control that turf right now, right? They weaponized COVID to be able to do things, and while they may have been unconstitutional, no one, because they were afraid of the bad press, no one was going to contest it. Well, it wasn't really legal, but there's nothing we can do now, and now it's the system. So when people have, what's the policy, what's this? Guess what, folks? Again, it's Sunday, so I won't say you could run Jesus Christ against Joe Biden right now and not win. But I'll say you could run someone pretty close to a deity against a radical, lunatic, leftist idiot who can't even read a teleprompter and lose. We have to be playing that game. We have to be engaged in that. Now, in time, we can change it, make it same-day voting, paper ballots, like the civilized world does. It's not a coincidence, just like it wasn't a coincidence that only conservatives got shadow banned, that only conservative people who were, on the fringe or radical got thrown off platforms. You never once saw a leftist complaining about being deplatformed, demonetized, or anything else. It's not a coincidence. Just like it wasn't a coincidence that the voting booths in Maricopa County in a conservative area shut down for a few hours, right? Coincidence is like statistics. It does not break one way 100% of the time, unless, of course, it's not a coincidence. Okay? That's how it works. But we have to be doing it. The only issue that's going to separate whether we win in the future for our freedoms, our liberties, our rights, are if we spool up the same kind of operation the Democrats have been running. That's going to be really unpopular with a lot of people. But I don't care, because we can't change it if we don't actually win to change. For the first time in history, we actually have to start getting ahead of the system rather than watch it fall away before our very eyes, bitch and complain, and do nothing about it. That's what matters. Like I said, hey, I think Trump is the only guy that'll stand up to not just the Democrats, but the donor class as well. Let's make it very clear. Okay? The average Republican donor class is not about we the people. It's about their wallet. And they want a president that when they call, they're going to take the phone. When they say jump, that president answers how high. Right? Make no mistake. You see that happening, and that's fine. That's a natural response. But like the natural response to the insanity going on in big tech, to the censorship, to the insanity of the mandates of big tech, we must finally recognize that. You recognize it, and you call it out. You can have the greatest platform in the world. You can have the greatest candidate in the world. It doesn't matter if you have no chance of winning. And that's where we're at right now, folks. You're never going to win a fair one. Again, it's not a coincidence that any time it's close, we lose. It's not a coincidence they only break one way. That's by design. And it is demoralizing. But again, folks, I can assure you, I spend a lot of time on the road all over the country, all over the place. I speak to people. I see the issues. People who are even center and center-left, they don't think a 3-year-old should mutilate their body permanently and change their sex. They don't think that a parent should not be involved in that decision-making process to take medications and or surgeries to do so. They don't think. Even Twitter before it was taken over, I'd say, hey, it's really weird that there's a dude winning all the women's sports out there, and I'm surprised the feminists don't have a problem with it. I'd say that on Twitter before anything changed, and even those who hate my guts, which is like 99% of Twitter, got on there and be like, oh, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Don Jr., but he's right on that. We're not losing on those issues. We're not losing on the fact that we don't want to be in a nuclear war in Russia over a corrupt regime on both sides. We're not losing. Americans aren't thrilled about the fact that it costs twice as much to fill up your car, right? I promise you, they're not losing on that issue. We're also not losing on the fact that the Democrat response to people saying, hey, man, I can't afford $5 gas to go to work and feed my family is go buy a $75,000 electrical vehicle. We're not losing on that issue. We're not losing on the issue of having been energy independent because we have the stuff under the ground in our own areas where we can create jobs for hardworking Americans, good-paying, hardworking jobs. We're not losing on that issue while we're begging Iran for a little bit of, please, can we have some oil? Please, you may be the world's leading state sponsor of terror, but we need you desperately. Or Venezuela. We're not losing on any issues. The good news, for the first time perhaps ever, we're actually winning the culture wars. Because the insanity of the other side has finally been exposed. They got so used to believing their own bullshit. Because they're in their echo chamber in D.C. and New York, and they're putting it out there on social, and they'll put it out there, and they'll suppress anyone who has an opposing view. But the point is, they took it so far that the American people finally said, there's no way this could be their platform. And yet we still have what I'd call an underwhelming midterm. Because we need to be playing that game. That's the one thing they're good at, folks. They figure out where they need to be, how they win. There's no moral compass. There's no anything. They figure out how to win, how to get to where they need to be, and then they do it. And they'll run over anything in their way. The party of tolerance, as we've discussed on this stage many times, ain't exactly tolerant. They're tolerant if you agree with them 100% of the time, not even 99. If you question one of the radical, say, well, listen, I may be with you on everything, but I question, you're gone. You're out. They'll destroy you no different than they do us. But guys, you know, Glenn introduced me here from Patriot Mobile earlier. Like, there is some hope. There's an entire parallel economy emerging where guys like you and me are saying, hey, wait a minute, like, why would I give my money to an AT&T or one of these companies that then takes that money and donates it to causes that hate my guts? Like, it's not just Patriot Mobile. Like, there's other people that realize we're sick and tired of funding those businesses that if they had their way, they'd put us in the gulags. They'd send us away. So now, as we're going into a recession, and we've been in one for a while, although because words no longer have any meaning, right? Remember, they changed the definition. It's not really a recession, even though this is the way we've called a recession for the last 50 years. If Trump was in office, we'd be in recession. If it's Joe Biden, we're going to pretend he's doing a great job because, frankly, he's a dementia-riddled idiot, and we got to... Come on, folks. I mean, I don't have time to go through all the examples. I mean, he can't even read the right ones on a teleprompter, let alone actually get policy. But he's not, no. He's not crafting these policies, obviously. Whoever is smarter than him, but they're willing to throw him under the bus. The reason he's actually been effective for Democrats and pushing their radical ideologies is because he has no idea what he's doing, and they're not worried about preserving his reputation. Obama wanted to do the same things, but he wasn't dumb enough to put his name on the signature block. Joe will sign anything, just like he'll read anything on a teleprompter, like Ron Burgundy. Right? I mean, it's... And there's Kamala Harris. Well, the equality of equality is only equal if we talk about equality. I'm like, I want to know who her speechwriter is, because I feel like he may be on our side. Because no, whoever it is, I'm like, that guy's got to be a conservative because he's making her look like an idiot. Hey, it's a word salad like we've never seen before. I'm like, man, I'm actually rooting for Joe Biden to live a long time because if she was in charge, it could almost be worse. Right? It's insane. But guys, pay attention to the things that you guys are involved, man. You're the front lines of this. You have been, and many of the familiar faces I'm seeing here, you're the front lines of this. Whether it's in the economy, whether it's in the media, whether it's the news, support those who share your values. Watch them. Take the time. And finally, again, the last little bit of good news I'm actually seeing, because for years we were just getting our butts kicked. And we say, we'll turn the other cheek, and we'll keep subscribing to Disney, and we'll keep subscribing to Netflix, and it doesn't matter. No, but there's a reason those stock prices are in the tubes. Because we're finally waking up and saying enough is enough. You're going to be out there. Search those companies. Find those businesses that share your values. Glenn Story is doing it. Michael Seifert from Public Square is doing it. Yeah, these are great people supporting great businesses and supporting patriots like you. And as we go into a downturn, and we're going into a downturn, think about it. Support those who share your values. Keep those businesses afloat. Stop giving your hard-earned money to those who hate your guts. You saw it even with Disney, even with the disaster. They fire the CEO who went down woke lane. They bring back Bob Iger. And even he gets up there and be like, it's not good for business, but we got to fight for our beliefs. And I'm like, your share price is half of what it was a year ago. And you're still all in. That's how they fight. That's how they play. We must be playing the same game, folks. I know you guys know it, but stay out there. Stay on the leading edge of this. Do not ever give up, folks, because what we're fighting for is worth it. I can promise you guys, it would have been much easier for me to stay being a real estate developer. I used to be loved in New York City. Now, not so much. I got a little bit of the Trump gene. I can't shut up. I got to keep fighting. But it's all worth it, guys, because everything we're fighting for is what made this country the greatest nation in the world. So for me, guys, it's an honor to be in this fight with all of you. Thank you for that support. Keep it up, and don't ever stop. Thank you, Arizona.